Hey everyone, Road to Gasparilla Day 5 is here. I'm Coach Kyle from Freedom Running Club, and today's topic we're going to be looking at speed work. We're going to be looking at what it is, why you would do it, where you would do it to have best success for Gasparilla here, and it's a little bit about how you might execute that for race success. So as a reminder, Gasparilla is coming up on February 21st and 22nd. Speed work, just like anything else, really should be done to specifically help improve your race. And with the vast differences in the distance of the races at Gasparilla, 5K, 8K, 15K, and half marathon, this should look very, very different if you're actually going to be getting what you want out of your speed work. So essentially speed work for these types of races, I'm going to be more talking about this in terms of intensity, because anything fast could be considered speed work. There's a school of thought that would say that anything that's not all out max sprinting, which we can only hold for about 50, 60 meters, can be considered speed work. But there's other things that people typically refer to as speed work we're going to look at here, and we're going to talk about primarily VO₂ max and critical velocity. This is going to be right around your 2-mile pace for VO₂ max, going all the way to as slow as like 10K pace for critical velocity. And there's different reasons why you would do those for these different races. So just because you're doing, say, the half or the 5K, this is going to look very, very different. So make sure you're specifically looking at that for you. It's essentially just to make sure that at the very end of the race, you don't hit that really big sort of mechanical breakdown or physiological breakdown when you're trying to run fast. We've all seen that where people are in a race, they try to run fast and it's just not there. Their body hasn't been properly managed to get to that point in the race with a good race plan, but also in terms of the actual workouts they've done. They haven't prepared specifically for what that demand is going to look like at the end of your race. Typically, all of these races and every world record, men, women, is going to be run from, say, that the mile all the way out to the marathon is always set with a faster second half than first half. So that's where some of this stuff comes into play. So that's essentially what speed work is. It's where when you want to go fast, you can handle that demand. This is not necessarily, in a lot of cases, going to be just like your true race pace. You're doing some of that, like for example, like I said, VO₂ max, if you're doing it, it's like 2-mile pace to maybe 5K pace. It can be really specific in terms of that, but it's not necessarily going to be the pace that in these race distances you're going to necessarily hold the whole way. When you get to 5K, it might be, depending for somebody, critical velocity. If you're maybe going to spend a little more time out there in the 8K, it could be closer to your critical velocity, because that's like what you can hold for, say, 40 to 45 to 50 minutes. So it's also about time. So there is variation here, but that's generally what we're looking at. It's going to put a bigger demand on your aerobic system because you can't only supply the oxygen or the energy through oxygen pathway. You're going to have a significant contribution from the anaerobic system, and that's where that kind of pain and extra fatigue comes from. That's that jelly leg feeling that you might feel when you've gone out too fast. So that's what it is. We're also going to talk just here about, why you're going to do it. And we really just mentioned it a little bit, why you're doing it. You want to make sure you don't break down at the end, right? And this is going to be really impactful in particular for, say, the shorter races, the 5K and the 8K. Those two races, because of how relatively short they are, they're still long races, obviously, but relatively short, you really should never run out of energy. So we're really looking at not necessarily running economy when we're looking at these type of faster sort of workout types. We're looking at more making sure that we can handle the acid that accumulates, because in a 5K and 8K, these are races where pretty much everybody's going to eventually slow down because of their body's pH dropping, that acid level increasing. So some of these things are going to help you to not to tolerate, because that's the wrong word, but to neutralize some of this acid, to run faster while you're doing this. So basically, for the why, the shorter, faster races, you're going to want some shorter, faster sort of runs. So that's where the VO₂ max specific targeted workouts are going to come from. Going a little bit longer, you're going to be looking at those critical velocity. And so essentially, when I would be breaking this down for anybody, is those shorter races, you're going to want to incorporate these pretty regularly throughout. You're going to want to start them early. You're going to want to do them fairly often. Typically, doing these things, you can do this type of training for up to 20 weeks with no real long-term ill effect. It's actually going to benefit you for doing it longer. The longer races, these are more finishing workouts. So 15K, you're probably going to do maybe some tempo runs. And we talked about tempo runs in a previous video. Definitely take a look at that. But you're probably going to be doing some tempo runs at something called lactic threshold, which is slower than what we're talking about today. But you might finish those tempo runs at critical velocity, maybe the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, just so that you're in a physiological state of stress and you can go to this a little bit longer. It's going to help your body to neutralize the increased acid and fatigue that comes with running faster. So those are the shorter races, the 5, 8, and 15K. If you're looking at for the half marathon, you're really only likely to want to do this toward the very end, finishing. You're in the peaking part. You're maybe like 3 weeks from the end. You might do a few sessions of this. You might do a tune-up 5K race or something like that as well. That might help you with just like that finishing surge, but you really don't want to overemphasize this for the half marathon because it's not super specific for what you're doing. You're only going to be doing very, very little at this intensity anyway. So don't overdo this in those longer races. People sometimes think, if I want to get faster, even in these longer races, I need to do it. Keep that law of training specificity in mind. It's not super specific for the race, so you're only going to want to do a little bit of it at the right time. Obviously, there's always variations here. We've talked about training gaps in previous videos. If you've identified a training gap that I cannot hold this intensity and you want a training block that has a lot of it, there's also reasons why you would do it for the half marathon. But in general, this kind of intensity, VO2 max to critical velocity, the shorter the race, the more impactful it is. Just makes sense. Again, law of training specificity, what you train is what you specifically get better at. You really don't want to get so much better at these faster intensities in the half marathon because we physically as humans cannot hold them. And all you're really going to be doing is relying more heavily on an energy system, an energy pathway that's going to create more fatigue. It might lead to a better first half of your half marathon, but if you overstress the system, if it becomes too strong, and that's the anaerobic glycolytic system, you're actually going to have more waste products. You might actually make yourself a little bit worse by overdoing this. So just keep all of those things in mind. So that's where we've looked at what, why, talked a little bit about how. I want to talk about where you can really do this for race execution and workout execution really for your races. So at Lopez Park, which is very close to the Raymond James Stadium, is a great place for it. It's got a soft path loop that you can do. You can do 800s there, you can do 600s, 1000s. It's marked really well, so it's a really safe place to do it in sort of like still a road race feel to it. It's not like you're actually going to a track. Track situation in Hillsborough County, which is where Gasparilla is not great. There's not a lot of open tracks. The school system here really is a little bit worried about lawsuits and things like that, so there's very limited access. In fact, there's only one track that I'm aware of that's actually open to the public. It doesn't mean that you can't sneak onto some of these other tracks, but the one that you're really going to be able to get onto is at Turner Bartels Middle School, which is a hard track. Perfectly fine. You're going to be doing a road race anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal to do a few more miles on it. I'm going to put the location up on the screen because you actually have to park at the new Tampa Little League Park, which is behind the school, and walk through it. It is a public park. It has access as long as school is not in session, so weekends, school holidays, after. I've seen people go onto it before school. I've even heard of people going at like 4 in the morning. I don't know how they're seeing, but I've heard that it is available. So those are two places that you can do really good speed work. If you feel like you want to do it on the track, if you want to do it in more of a road race situation, Al Lopez Park is fantastic, really good place to do this. Obviously, I've talked about places like Flatwoods, any place that has a good, hard, fast surface you're going to want to do these things on. You're probably going to maybe want to break out some shoes that are a little bit faster so you can get a little bit more quality work in this situation. But you're thinking fast, you're thinking flat, you're thinking something that you can run on and not worry about holes or crazy turns or anything like that. So that is our 5th day here for Road to Gasparilla, talking about speed work. If you have any questions, maybe specifically about how you might do it for your particular race or your situation, ask those in the comments down below. We'll give you some help. If you do have more specific questions in terms of training, you can book a free strategy call with us and we can help you with looking at Gasparilla or any other races that you might be doing. Definitely take a look at those other videos in the series. We've already talked about things like tempo runs, long runs, weather, things like that. And we'll be back here with day 6 in a few days.